Você diz que está aqui para emoções e você anseia por algo real. Este momento louco, diga-me como se sente. Com cada grito e grito ecoando lá no alto. Vamos abafar nossas preocupações, vamos nos deleitar com amor. Eu quero rock and roll a noite toda e festa todos os dias. Deixa a música assumir o controle enquanto dançamos nossas preocupações. Eu quero nos perder no som que nos liberta. Então aumente o volume e deixe o rugir esta. Hoje o rugir, essa noite selvagem foi feita para mim. E quando as estrelas colidem com nossos sonhos desenfreados, cada batida do coração está batendo, a vida explode em suas costuras. Então segure firme que vai em verdade. Quando surfamos nessa onda esta noite, juntos vamos desencadear um turbilhão de luz. Eu quero rock and roll a noite toda e festa todos os dias. Deixa a música assumir o controle enquanto dançamos nossas preocupações. Eu quero nos perder no som que nos liberta. Então aumente o volume e deixe o rugir esta. Hoje o rugir, essa noite selvagem foi feita para mim. Sim, estou gritando bem alto. Você pode sentir essa emoção. Essa paixão elétrica surge. É mais do que apenas uma emoção. Vamos balançar até o amanhecer. O mundo desaparece. Esta noite somos eternamente jovens. Vamos viver sem demora. Estou gritando bem alto. Você pode sentir essa emoção. Essa paixão elétrica surge. É mais do que apenas uma emoção. Vamos balançar até o amanhecer. O mundo desaparece. Esta noite somos eternamente jovens. Vamos viver sem demorar. Só pessoas iriam a noite se inflamar. Agora volta uma visão emocionante. Guitarra gemem como pontes no escuro. Uma sinfonia de trovões está prestes a acender. Se está prestes a acender 50 mil corações batendo como um só. Perdido no caos até o sol da manhã. A besta desperta com um rugido primitivo. Nesta tempestade elétrica estamos implorando por mais. Sinta sobrecargar, deixa-o explodir. É a sua passada meia-noite, grite alto. Deixa o metal acender, mais alto do que alto, estamos prontos pra lutar. Isso é heavy metal, cavalgando o desespero na linha de uma navalha. Aumente o volume, deixa esse heavy metal brilhar. Jeans apertados e fogo sob seu olhar. Ela bota o silêncio como uma chama ardente. Com rebelião de pato e espírito tão liberal. Está com as lendas, ela faz parte da barra. Oh, você pode sentir essa tensão. Cada nota atinge com mais força do que uma arma carregada. Multidões surgem como ondas quebrando na pedra. Unidos pela paixão, encontramos nossa casa. Você pode sentir a raiva, liberte toda a sua dor. É a sua passada meia-noite, grite alto. Deixa o metal acender, mais alto do que alto, estamos prontos pra lutar. Isso é heavy metal, cavalgando o desespero na linha de uma navalha. Aumente o volume, deixa esse heavy metal brilhar. Jeans apertados e fogo sob seu olhar. Ela corta o silêncio como uma chama ardente. Com rebelião de batom e espírito tão liberal. Está com as lendas, ela faz parte da farra. Oh, você pode sentir a raiva, liberte toda a sua dor. É a sua passada meia-noite, grite alto. Deixa o metal acender, mais alto do que alto, estamos prontos pra lutar. Isso é heavy metal, cavalgando o desespero na linha de uma navalha. Aumente o volume, deixa esse heavy metal brilhar. tudo que alto, estamos prontos pra lutar. Isso é heavy metal, cavalgando desespero na linha de uma navalha. Aumente o volume, deixa esse heavy metal brilhar. Ruído de metais pesados ecoando.
Chamado de uma tempestade, com cada olhar você desce sua maldição. O feitiço tão doce que parece sede. Eu sei que a verdade está em seu suspiro, em meu coração. Dança em suas mentiras. Estão caindo no abismo, estão caindo no fogo onde os demônios brincam. Seu amor é uma chama que leva ao erro, na chama da pira do desejo. Estou caindo mais fundo neste fogo. Você pinta meu mundo com tons de dor. Cada beijo é uma faísca que me deixa louco. Este destino distorcido eu não posso escapar. Você é meu céu e meu túmulo. Quando esse tormento chegará ao fim, seu amor é uma faca que eu não posso defender. Estou caindo no abismo, estou caindo no fogo onde os demônios brincam. Seu amor é uma chama que leva ao erro, na chama da pira do desejo. Estou caindo mais fundo neste fogo. Você pinta meu mundo com tons de dor. Cada beijo é uma faísca que me deixa louco. Este destino distorcido eu não posso escapar. Você é meu céu e meu túmulo. Quando esse tormento chegará ao fim, seu amor é uma faca que eu não posso defender. Estou caindo no abismo, estou caindo no fogo onde os demônios brincam. Seu amor é uma chama que leva ao erro, na chama da pira do desejo. Estou caindo mais fundo neste fogo. Trazendo de volta daqueles dias ininterruptos, antes que seu toque incendiasse minha alma. Cada batimento cardíaco ecoa com arrependimento. Neste inferno cumprimos nossa dívida. As cinzas sussurram histórias não contadas, de corações outrora quentes agora ficando frios. No abismo estão caindo no fogo onde os demônios brincam. Seu amor é uma chama que leva ao erro, na chama da pira do desejo. Estou caindo mais fundo neste fogo. Então aqui estou eu na porta do destino, com as chamas lambendo mais alto. Não aguenta muito mais, no entanto ainda anseio pelo que me puxa para perto. Essa dança com perigo envolto em medo. Estou caindo no abismo, estou chamando, subir ou queimar, minha escolha não está clara. No fogo estou perdido, mas aqui com um trem de carga e o céu racha de raiva. Sinto o peso das minhas próprias correntes nesta tempestade. Estou preso no palco, livre como um raio, mas conta tão fundo. Um flash que me mostrou que não posso manter. Oh, não há sinal de amanhecer. Rompendo, você é um fantasma no meu coração que eu conheci, como sombras dançando em uma tempestade furiosa. Um arco-íris perdido onde escuridão nasce. Sim, você é apenas um arco-íris no escuro. Meu lampejo de esperança deixa uma marca dolorosa. Cada ecoa nessas paredes como sussurros de demônios que nunca caem, lutando contra sombras que se agarram à minha alma. Sua risada suando enquanto eu perco o controle. Eu clamo por magia, ele escapa do meu alcance. Apenas momentos fugazes que nunca duram. Oh, não há sinal de amanhecer rompendo. Você é um fantasma no meu coração que eu conheci, como sombras dançando em uma tempestade furiosa. Um arco-íris perdido onde a escuridão nasce. Sim, você é apenas um arco-íris no escuro. Meu lampejo de esperança deixa uma marca dolorosa. Você pode ouvi-lo chamando, ele treme por dentro. Um batimento cardíaco de fúria, sonhos negados. Somos apenas silhuetas contra este céu noturno, segurando firme tudo que negamos. Oh, não há sinal de amanhecer rompendo. Você é um fantasma no meu coração que eu conheci, como sombras dançando em uma tempestade furiosa. O arco-íris perdido onde a escuridão nasce. Sim, você é apenas um arco-íris. Lights flash, cameras clicking quick. Showtime, super Gringo slick. Headlines buzzing like a mix. 20 seconds, that's the fix. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shots, that's where we part. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part.
The left continues to try to push the false narrative about a Maryland man who doesn't have a social security number because only U.S. citizens have social security numbers, and has been in front of 2 judges not getting due process. In recent months, the case surrounding Kilmar Armando Oreo Garcia, often referred to as the Maryland man, has ignited a fierce debate concerning immigration policy, law enforcement integrity, and political accountability. The Democrats are orchestrating a deportation hoax regarding Garcia's immigration status and criminal affiliations with MS-13. The foundation for controversy hinges on assertions made by various political figures that Garcia was not affiliated with MS-13. Critics like actor Billy Baldwin have challenged this narrative on social media platforms, questioning where it is proven that Garcia had ties to this notorious gang, which has been deemed a terrorist organization by the Trump administration due to the unprecedented use of violence and intimidation outside of and within the borders of the United States. However, an array of court documents reveals a different reality. They indicate that courts have verified his association with MS-13. Specifically, one document states that the respondent failed to meet his burden of demonstrating that his release from custody would not pose a danger to others, citing solid evidence affirming his gang membership. It is crucial to acknowledge the legal framework surrounding such cases. The Board of Immigration Appeals, BIA, has maintained that Form I-213 used by immigration authorities is inherently trustworthy unless proven otherwise. In Garcia's situation, multiple judicial rulings across various levels have corroborated his MS-13 connections. These findings underscore not only the gravity of his alleged criminal affiliations, but also highlight how misinformation can distort public perception about serious issues like gang violence and illegal immigration. One cannot ignore the political ramifications involved in cases like Garcia's. The notion put forth by some commentators suggests that former President Donald Trump could leverage diplomatic relations with El Salvador to secure Garcia's extradition or influence local authorities regarding charges against him. Such hypothetical scenarios raise critical questions about international law, sovereignty, and ethical governance, especially concerning whether one nation should hand over its citizens based solely on another nation's political pressures. The complexities deepen when considering how governments interact over deportations and extraditions while maintaining respect for human rights norms and legal precedents. For instance, if Trump were to request El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele to relinquish one of his citizens under politically motivated circumstances, it would create dangerous precedents for future diplomatic relations between countries. Moreover, the ongoing struggle between branches of government in America, executive versus judiciary, illustrates broader concerns about checks and balances in our democratic system. Critics argue that increasing judicial activism undermines executive authority when courts issue universal injunctions based on isolated complaints rather than comprehensive legal standards applicable nationwide. This trend raises fears about an executive branch potentially ignoring judicial rulings deemed unconstitutional or politically motivated, a pathway fraught with perilous implications for democracy. As we navigate through these contentious discussions surrounding immigration policies and allegations tied to individuals like Kilmar Armando Oreo Garcia, it becomes increasingly apparent that we must prioritize facts over political posturing. While it is essential for all Americans to voice their opinions in democratic discourse actively, those voices must be informed by credible evidence rather than sensationalized narratives seeking to exploit fear or division. As we reflect upon the situation involving Kilmar Armando Oreo Garcia and its implications within American society today regarding immigration policy, enforcement, and national security, it's imperative for both politicians and citizens alike to ground their arguments in truthfulness rather than conjecture or fear-mongering tactics aimed at garnering support or opposition. Ultimately, fostering a well-informed electorate should remain at the forefront of any discussion regarding sensitive issues such as illegal immigration while upholding justice for victims affected by gang violence in our communities across America. The one thing the left does that further demonstrates their lack of self-awareness or common sense is to lecture me on illegal immigration. I am a legal immigrant to Brazil. Do you know what Brazil does when you come here illegally? They kick you out. Do you know what else they do? They will fine you for having to kick you out. But you leftists keep lecturing me on illegal immigration. I actually had a loony leftist get upset at one of my jokes at Hawk's expense. I personally think Hawk looks like a 40-plus-year-old lesbian woman, so I commented on one of his stupid videos again. I said, looks like you're going to have to make a choice. The Supreme Court has just ruled that men are men and women are women. You can't play the middle of the road anymore. One of the loony leftists came back with, source, liar! So I came back with an article by the BBC about the Supreme Court's ruling. And then I asked, what do you need a source for? That the Supreme Court ruled that men are men and women are women, or that Hawk is not a 40-plus-year-old lesbian woman? Of course, the date's going to be wrong, but hey, whatever. The water's pretty clean for Brazil. pretty much all man-made. Oh, my zoom button's broken. Yeah, I don't have a zoom button anymore. Seems to be recording though, so. Just push. Pull you off. Just push her. Fuck. Today we stand at a pivotal crossroads in our nation's history, a time when the airwaves are saturated with whispers. Whispers from anonymous sources seeking to undermine the very foundations of leadership and accountability. Yes, I'm talking about the relentless attacks on Donald Trump's defense secretary, Mr. Pete Hegseth. These attacks are not just a matter of political rivalry, they are a calculated effort to distort the narrative surrounding one of the most crucial institutions, our military leadership. Let me ask you this. How many times have we seen bold leaders face backlash for daring to challenge the status quo? History teaches us that institutional change requires tough decisions, decisions that often ruffle feathers among those entrenched in the bureaucratic comfort zones. Supporters of Hegseth argue passionately that removing individuals resistant to reform is not just necessary, it's essential for effective leadership. Because let's face it, when you're steering a ship towards new horizons, you can't afford to have barnacles dragging you back into stagnant waters. We must recognize that implementing necessary reforms often incurs backlash from those who cling tightly to outdated practices and beliefs. High turnover within an organization may be warranted if it means paving the way for progress. Radical shifts in organizational culture provoke dissent. Yes, but should such reactions deter us from pursuing modernization? Absolutely not. We owe it to our troops, our country, and ourselves to embrace change with open arms. Now, let's turn our gaze toward the media, these self-appointed arbiters of truth who love nothing more than sensational stories spun from half-truths and hearsay. Defenders like Hegseth assert that these narratives stem from disgruntled former employees intent on tarnishing his reputation. And can we blame them? The frustration echoed by officials during interviews highlights how media portrayals often distort their intentions and achievements. The narrative propagated by certain media outlets does not accurately reflect the realities faced by leaders making difficult decisions amid reform efforts. Allegations against Hegseth could very well be exaggerated or manipulated by sources with agendas that serve only their own interests, rather than provide an objective account of events. So I ask you again, are we going to allow anonymous sources, mere shadows lurking behind faceless accusations, to dictate how we perceive effective leadership? Or will we rise up against the tide of misrepresentation and demand accountability? In closing, let us remember these words from Winston Churchill. To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing. This is our moment, our opportunity to support those willing to make tough choices for the betterment of our nation. Let us stand united against these unfounded attacks on leadership. Let us champion transparency and integrity. It is time for all of us, not just supporters, but every American, to take action. Let your voices be heard. Demand truth over rumor. Demand clarity over confusion. Demand respect for those who dare lead amidst adversity. So Hawk, the ADD champion of the world, posted this video of a young kid in handcuffs being searched by a sheriff's deputy. Didn't offer any context. I don't watch his videos anyway. He's a blithering idiot. Above the video, he put this: Trump's America. So I did a simple Google search for 2022. Did you know, while Biden was in office, over 10,000 elementary school students were arrested and handcuffed? I guess that makes that Biden's America. Now let's talk about farm subsidies. It's a term that often gets thrown around in political debates, isn't it? But here's the thing. When we compare that, what our hardworking farmers receive through these subsidies, to the generous amounts flowing through USAID to foreign countries, it makes you wonder, are we really prioritizing what matters most? I mean, think about it. We're pouring money into programs abroad while our own farmers are struggling to make ends meet. Does that sit right with you? Because it doesn't sit right with me. Why are we sending money overseas when we could be investing right here at home? Now, I'm not saying we should turn our backs on those in need globally. That would be unfair, but shouldn't our first responsibility be to support those who feed us, those who rise before dawn and toil under the sun for hours on end, those who risk everything for a good harvest? Imagine if we redirected just a fraction of those funds toward our local farmers. What if we helped them thrive instead of merely surviving? We could create jobs, boost our economy, and foster communities rooted in sustainability and resilience. It's not just good policy, it's common sense. Let me remind you of something President Franklin D. Roosevelt once said. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. Friends, let's ensure that our farmers are among those who have enough. I was watching another Hawk video this morning. He was basically trying to make fun of a trad wife's video, who's better looking than any leftist woman I've seen. But what I found ironic, Hawk looks like a 40-plus-year-old lesbian who's hit the wall. You're going to comment on a woman's video that wouldn't give you a second look? But you're all about women's rights. Her right to be the type of wife that she wants to be. Got it. I just told him they were a bunch of losers. I also reminded them something. Do you know what happened this morning when I woke up? I was smarter than all of them combined. Do you know what's going to happen tonight when I go to bed? I'm going to be smarter than all of them combined. So far, no comments because maybe they actually know it. Now, you'll notice I got away from using AI. It was fun to play with for a while, but it took too long and didn't give the vocal tone so people really understand how much stupid I think they are. Now, I'm going to go back to my videos on how I write books. I think it sounds way too negative. I don't just try to debunk the stupid stuff the left says. I do write down. Just saw a video of a bunch of trans activists, mentally ill people, protesting the Supreme Court's ruling that men are men and women are women. Something that we've known for probably a few 100,000 years. However, the headline read, "Trans activists protesting Supreme Court ruling." So I had to fix their headline for them. Mentally ill people will no longer be forced to pretend with them. That's what the headline should have read. Now, when they try to argue, I just send them a copy of a forensic pathology book and say, the recent case of Bray Garcia, a man accused of being an MS-13 gang member and facing deportation, has ignited a significant political party dynamics and public perception. The Garcia case serves as a micro. Garcia is accused of domestic violence against his wife, adds layers to this narrative. Voters often prioritize safety when they perceive threats in their communities. This dichotomy between advocating for due process while addressing community fears is a tightrope walk that Democrats must navigate carefully. Moreover, there is an inherent risk in how these cases are politicized by both sides. As noted in discussions surrounding immigrant cases like Garcia's, Republicans frequently leverage such stories to highlight perceived failures in Democratic leadership regarding border security and law enforcement. Trump's administration successfully framed immigration as one of the most popular issues among voters, a narrative that Democrats have struggled to counter effectively. In siding with individuals like Garcia, whose criminal associations cast doubts on their character, Democrats may inadvertently reinforce Republican narratives about lax immigration policies. The growing number of Democrats visiting El Salvador to advocate for Garcia's return emphasizes another layer: potential violations of established protocols governing foreign relations. Critics argue that such actions could be construed as violations of the Logan Act if these officials seek to influence foreign governments without authorization from federal authorities. This scenario underscores how politically charged narratives can lead party members into precarious situations where their actions might be legally questionable or publicly unpopular. Furthermore, this situation illustrates how individual cases can become symbols for broader cultural wars playing out across America today. The stark division between those who champion immigration rights regardless of circumstances and those who prioritize law enforcement creates fertile ground for misinformation and conflict within communities already grappling with socio-economic issues exacerbated by immigration patterns. I'm going to tell you the truth now. I got that from various sources. I just put it together. They could give a wombat shit about a guy named Garcia. They don't care about illegal immigrants. They're a number for more electoral votes in the Electoral College and more seats in Congress. That is all. They don't care if they have enough money to feed them, clothe them, house them, medical care, none of that. They don't care about a guy named Garcia. They care about a guy named Trump. This has nothing to do with immigration, El Salvador, MS-13. This has to do with Trump unacceptance and resistance disorder. They wouldn't care if that guy killed 30 people just because Trump deported him. He's a hero. That's what a bunch of scumbags the Democrats are. I almost forgot I have a new book out. Have you ever paused to consider the weight of your choices? Whether it's deciding what to have for breakfast or making a career move that could change your life, every decision we make carries with it an intrinsic cost, a ripple effect that shapes not only our lives, but also the society we live in. Today, I want to share some insights from my new book, Understanding Capitalism, the Dynamic Dance of Market Forces and Human Behavior, which delves deep into this very idea. In our first chapter, The Weight of Decision, we explore human nature itself. Imagine standing at a crossroads, each path representing a different choice. Which one do you take? Each choice is not just a step forward, it's a commitment that weighs heavily on your mind and heart. And as we navigate through life's decisions, we must acknowledge the emotional burdens they bring along. Choices shape our well-being, influence our relationships, and ultimately define societal dynamics. Now, let's shift gears to something that might seem more straightforward: profit and loss. In Chapter 2, Navigating the Balance, I argue that these two concepts are foundational in understanding our economic landscape. They're like the yin and yang of capitalism. Without profit, businesses falter. Without loss, innovation stagnates. Understanding this balance is crucial as we navigate the complexities of modern economies, like steering a ship through turbulent waters. But what drives those profits? Let's talk about specialization, an idea so powerful it has transformed economies for centuries. In Chapter 3, The Mechanics of Production, I dissect how division of labor enhances productivity. Think about it. When each person focuses on what they do best, everyone wins. For factories in the industrial age to tech startups today, specialization fuels innovation and growth. And speaking of growth, let's dive into economics of scale in Chapter 4. Here's where things get really interesting. Imagine a small bakery struggling to compete with a large chain store. By optimizing production processes and reducing costs through economies of scale, that small bakery can thrive. This isn't just theory, it's happening all around us as businesses adapt to market demands. Now, let's take a global perspective on Chapter 5. Navigating global markets. Trade isn't just about exchanging goods, it's about a comparative advantage, the ability for countries to produce certain goods more efficiently than others. This principle fosters economic growth on an international scale. Think back to history when nations collaborated rather than compete blindly against each other. Everyone benefits. As we weave technology into this narrative in Chapter 6, Harnessing Innovation, it becomes clear how vital innovation is for resource management. Just think about how smartphones have transformed communication. They didn't just make things easier, they revolutionized entire industries. Technology drives efficiency while paving the way for sustainable development, a crucial consideration for our future economic stability. Finally, let me touch on something deeply philosophical, the interplay between prosperity, morality, and freedom outlined in Chapter 7. The interplay of prosperity. True success isn't merely measured by wealth, but by ethical considerations that promote individual freedoms alongside economic growth. As John Stuart Mill once said, a person may cause evil to others not only by his actions, but his inaction. We must strive for a balance, a society where prosperity coexists with moral responsibility. So here we are at this intersection, a dynamic dance between market forces and human behavior, and I invite you all to join me on this journey through Understanding Capitalism. It's not just another economics book, it's an exploration of who we are as individuals within this vast system. As you leave here today, I urge you, reflect on your choices, embrace innovation, understand profit and loss, not merely as concepts, but as vital components shaping our world. Let us commit ourselves to fostering an economy that values both growth and ethics. Thank you all for your... Feel free to grab your copy now on Amazon Kindle or Google Play. All formats available at just $7.50. Together, let's embark on this enlightening adventure into capitalism. As the left uses brown shirt-like tactics, they project their ideologies and tactics onto the other side. In contemporary political discourse, the term brown shirts often conjure images of authoritarianism and violence. Borrowing from the history of the Nazi Party in Germany, the brown shirts, or Sturmbataillon, I don't speak German, were notorious for their thuggish tactics, including intimidation and violence against political opponents. I will examine how certain factions in the political left employ tactics reminiscent of the brown shirts to assert their ideals while simultaneously projecting their behaviors onto opposing sides. By analyzing the motivation behind these tactics, recent developments in political polarization, and future implications, we can better understand the dynamics at play in current political debates. Brown shirt tactics are characterized by aggressive intimidation, mob violence, and silencing opposing viewpoints. Historically, such behavior sought to disrupt political discourse and enforce ideological conformity. In the modern context, some argue that elements of the left have adopted similar methods to achieve their political objectives. Instances of aggression against speakers or groups considered opposed to progressive ideologies have been documented on college campuses and in public protests. These actions can include the suppression of free speech, physical confrontations, and mob mentality. For example, protests against conservative speakers, such as those at the University of California, Berkeley, have led to riots, property damage, and violence. While some argue these actions are justified in protecting marginalized communities, the implication of using violence and intimidation to silence dissenting opinions reflect a troubling trend of ideological intolerance. One of the most striking aspects of contemporary political discourse is the tendency of various groups to project their tactics and ideologies onto their opponents. For instance, left-wing activists frequently accuse conservative groups of employing fascistic tactics, despite parallels in their own behavior. This form of projection acts as a psychological defense mechanism, allowing individuals to deflect criticism from their own actions by attributing negative traits to others. The left often frames their critiques of the right within a narrative of moral superiority, characterizing conservatives as oppressive or violent. By doing so, they can justify their aggressive tactics as necessary means to combat a perceived threat. This phenomenon has been notably widespread in social media discourse, where accusations fly rapidly and individuals are quick to label others as fascists or Nazis. These labels detract from substantive discussion about policies and ideologies, reducing complex debates to simplistic and incendiary terms. Excuse me, need a little coffee. The rise of social media has significantly transformed the landscape of political communication. Platforms such as X and Facebook allow for rapid and far-reaching dissemination of information, often breeding echo chambers where aggressive tactics can flourish. Both sides of the political spectrum have used social media to amplify their messages, but the left has sometimes leveraged these platforms to silence opposing views. Cancel culture is a contemporary manifestation of this trend, where individuals or entities face backlash and social ostracization for expressing ideas deemed unacceptable by the left. A notable example includes the backlash faced by figures like J.K. Rowling for her comments on transgender issues. The sustained pressure exerted through social media campaigns often leads to public apologies or retractions, illustrating the power dynamics at play. Critics argue that the left's approach mirrors brown shirt tactics in the sense that it seeks to eliminate dissent through intimidation rather than promoting constructive dialogue. Political polarization in the United States has intensified divisions between the left and the right, creating environments where compromise is increasingly challenging. This polarization fosters scenarios where both sides view each other with suspicion and hostility. Activities on the left often perceive themselves as defenders against a regressive force embodied by the right, leading them to justify tactics that align with the historical authoritarianism. The recent rise of extremist groups on both sides shows that the implications of this polarization extend beyond rhetoric. They manifest in real violence, from the assault on the Capitol by far-right extremists to Antifa protests that have devolved into riots. The risk of political violence looms large. Each side tends to ascribe the label of fascist to the other, thereby delegitimizing the opposing position and fostering an environment where violent tactics seem like the only option left. As both the left and right continue to entrench themselves in their respective camps, the implications for future discourse remain concerning. To date, not one conservative has attacked a Tesla car or dealership, period. The increased normalization of aggressive and intimidating tactics can lead to an escalating cycle of retaliation. Nobody's retaliated against the left yet. You notice I say yet. By the way, I don't know if I need to put this out there or not, but arson is grounds for the use of deadly force. So, just wanted to. If both sides continue to employ strategies reminiscent of the brown shirts, the right isn't. That's the problem. Political dialogue may deteriorate into outright conflict. One potential future trajectory involves loss of faith in democratic institutions. When factions believe that dialogue and reasoned debate are futile, they may turn to other insurrectionary approaches. This shift could pose serious threats to social stability and the rule of law, necessitating a concerted effort for reconciliation and dialogue. Engaging with opposing viewpoints remains vital to a functional democracy. We are not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. North Korea is a democracy. If individuals on the left and right can begin to acknowledge their similarities, the tendency to adopt aggressive tactics when threatened, there may be hope for creating a more constructive public discourse. Moving towards a cultural prioritizing respect for differing opinions can help mitigate the cycle of aggression seen today. The projection of tactics and ideologies between left and right presents a serious challenge to political discourse and societal unity. By adopting brown shirt tactics, certain factions on the left mirror the behaviors they condemn in others, while also reinforcing a narrative of moral superiority. The implications of this projection extend to political polarization, the sanitization of confrontational discourse through social media, and the potential for future extremism. Ultimately, fostering an environment where civil discourse can thrive is essential for a healthy democracy. We are not a democracy. For a healthy republic, while the temptation to resort to intimidation and aggression may arise from the fear of ideological threats, recognizing the dangers of such tactics is critical. Both the left and the right must strive for open dialogue if they hope to bridge the deep divides threatening the future of democratic governance. And this is exactly what I'm doing right here. I will call you out for being stupid. Stop being stupid. But there's an open dialogue. Maybe if you started, reading would be a good way to go. I even make audiobooks because I know, thanks to our Department of Education, 1 in 4 Americans cannot read above a 6th grade level. So I made audiobooks to help with that. So yes, they use brown shirt tactics while calling you a brown shirt. Welcome to the American left.
We are all individually having horrible Easters, so let's talk about it because it is quite the show. You heard that correctly, so let's start with what's going on with JD Couch, because that one's kind of the craziest in my opinion. It all started when yesterday, the literal Pope,
may he rest in peace,
sent his deputy to lecture JD Couch on compassion. That's right, the Pope himself didn't even want to show up, so he sent the other guy to lecture JD. But then it sounds like that didn't take, because the Pope had to step in himself today and directly lecture JD. As you can see here, which I encourage you to pause to read, the Pope has been very outspoken against what they have been doing. He then went on to openly condemn their contempt that has stirred with the vulnerable, marginalized, and migrants, and highlighted that they are violating the dignity of many men, women, and entire families.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
Any questions? Didn't think so.
I don't know about you, but imagine like the leader of your entire religion and worldview stepping up to essentially say like, hey, I don't like you. That's got to be by far one of the worst days of your life.
Yeah, that's kind of like the leader of your entire religion and worldview, Kamala Harris, scolding you because your body count is too low.
Bruh.
And then we had Donnie, who posted this very long and miserable rant yelling at everyone. I'll spare you from reading it, but no one who's truly happy takes this much time out of a holiday to be this hateful. And don't worry, there is a whole section where he dumps on Sleepy Joe Biden, who lives rent-free in his mind.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
Pathetic.
And then we have Elon Musk, whose quarterly reports came in so bad that a once leader in the market has now fallen behind all other non-Tesla electric vehicles. And to add the icing on the cake, the sales of the Cybertruck are doing so terribly that he is pulling workers off of them on factory lines. What a shocker after you made a truck that doesn't function as a truck and you aimed it at as an audience that doesn't seem like trucks are their main focus. And you might say to yourself, wow, I don't think their weeks could get any worse, but it's only Sunday and I always have hope. Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, you took shots at Trump for being hateful on Easter, yet here you are, rejoicing in other people's perceived misfortune and hoping it gets worse for them. Literally on Easter.
The hypocrisy, Willie, is so amazing.
And here I thought liberalism was about love and tolerance.
A few moments later.
You didn't hear from me, but this week just got even crazier. Not only did the Pope use his dying day to tell off Donnie and JD Couch.
Oh, so you're not going for the love and tolerance kind of liberalism. You're going for the shamelessly politicize every event for your narrative kind of liberalism.
Hey, I'm not surprised,
Neither am I, but by all means continue to cringe.
But Pete Hegseth has once again leaked more attack plans in another Signal chat. You heard that correctly. Let's start with the Pope.
Yeah, you already said this, so moving on.
And then we have the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who leaked more attack details in a second Signal chat, this time one that he created himself with his own personal phone number. In the chat were people like his wife, his brother, family members, and his personal lawyer. At this point, it just shows that
the White House has a serious rat problem.
The siege is set in motion, Lord Chief. The man things will rule the day. The title mess with the Skaven. Yes. Yeah, by Sigma, it's a talking rat. I'm going inside.
Yeah, they should really get on that.
But now I gotta go, because I'm 5 minutes behind catching my plane to go down to Texas to try and fight Charlie Kirk.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Sweetie, Kirk's gonna wreck you in that debate. So please post it, because the rest of us are gonna be here again, popcorn in hand, again.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
I walked into that honky-tonk, heart racing like a train. Saw you sitting by the jukebox, honey, you lit up my brain. Your laughter danced like fireflies in the summer evening air. But when I made my move, girl, I saw you glance with that stare. You said, honey, can't you see you're wearing your years like a scar? But there's more to me than numbers. Let me show you who we are. I may be too old to cut the mustard, but I ain't too old to lick the jar. Life's a wild ride on this country road. I'm just looking for a chance to go far. Got stories in these calloused hands, and love still burning bright as a star. So take a closer look and you'll see there's more beneath this weathered guitar. I've traveled roads less taken, with dust on my boots and soul. Worn out from chasing dreams, but never losing control. You think wisdom comes with age? Baby, it's about the heart. And mine is young enough to know what sets it apart. You laughed at my silver hair and called me grandpa tonight. But deep down in this cowboy's chest beats a rhythm full of life. I may be too old to cut the mustard, but I ain't too old to lick the jar. Life's a wild ride on this country road. I'm just looking for a chance to go far. Got stories in these calloused hands, and love still burning bright as a star. So take a closer look and you'll see there's more beneath this weathered guitar. Maybe I've seen some sunsets fade while you've just begun your rise. But every wrinkle tells of laughter under wide open skies. Don't judge me by my cover, there's gold between these lines. A timeless kind of magic when two hearts intertwine. I may be too old to cut the mustard, but I ain't too old to lick the jar. Life's a wild ride on this country road. I'm just looking for a chance to go far. Got stories in these calloused hands, and love still burning bright as a star. So take a closer look and you'll see there's more beneath this weathered guitar. So here's my hand extended, let's dance neath neon lights so bold. Cause baby, I might be grizzled gray, but my spirit will never grow cold.
In a recent incident that has sparked widespread discussion, CNN aired a video showing a leftist individual harassing Representative Nancy Mace. This event not only raises questions about the civility of political discourse, but also highlights the media's role in shaping public perception. The comment section beneath the video revealed an unsettling tendency among some leftists to defend the aggressive behavior exhibited in the footage. This brings to light an important linguistic distinction regarding the term confront, which often connotes hostility. As we delve deeper into this issue, it becomes imperative to consider how language shapes our understanding of political interactions and the consequences that arise from misinterpretations. The incident involving Representative Mace is emblematic of a broader trend within political dialogues today, one characterized by aggression rather than constructive engagement. When discussing such confrontations, it is vital to recognize that using terms like confront implies an intention to challenge or even attack, which can escalate tensions unnecessarily. For instance, if someone says they're on their way to confront another person, it instinctively triggers defensive reactions and prepares individuals for conflict rather than dialogue. This linguistic nuance is especially relevant in today's politically charged climate where words carry significant weight. In the case of Representative Mace, many commentators on social media attempted to rationalize or justify the harassment she faced as part of an acceptable form of political dissent. However, this defense raises critical questions about what constitutes reasonable discourse in our society. Harassment should never be normalized as a method of expressing disagreement. Rather, it should be condemned regardless of one's ideological stance. Furthermore, defending such behavior undercuts efforts towards fostering genuine dialogue between differing political factions. If one side believes that aggressive confrontation is justifiable while engaging with their opponents, it creates a cycle where hostility breeds further hostility, a phenomenon aptly described by the phrase, "an eye for an eye leaves everyone blind." By embracing more respectful forms of engagement, such as debate or discussion, we can work towards bridging divides instead of deepening them. The implications extend beyond individual interactions. They also reflect on how media platforms like CNN choose to present these events. The portrayal of harassment as merely a confrontation can inadvertently legitimize aggressive tactics and embolden those who might resort to similar actions in pursuit of their political objectives. Therefore, it is crucial for both media outlets and consumers alike to remain vigilant about how language influences perceptions and behaviors surrounding contentious issues. The incident involving Representative Mace serves as a stark reminder of how language shapes our understanding of political interactions and impacts societal norms around discourse. The defense offered by some leftists in response to the harassment showcase a troubling acceptance of aggression as a legitimate form of expression. As we navigate these discussions, we must strive for clarity in our terminology and reject hostile confrontations in favor of respectful dialogue. Only then can we hope to foster a political environment that encourages understanding rather than division, a goal that benefits us all regardless of our ideological beliefs. In other news, in the tumultuous world of American politics, few figures have ignited as much controversy and discussion as Pete Hegseth. Known for his outspoken views and unyielding stance against what he perceives as deep state actors, Hegseth has found himself as the center of a media storm following revelations about private communications. As we delve into this narrative, we will explore how the media's portrayal of events, particularly regarding Hegseth's Signal Chat controversy, reflects broader themes of political bias, accountability, and the challenges faced by those who dare to challenge the status quo. The media had latched onto a story involving Signal Chats, private messages that were now public fodder for sensational journalism. Yet there was a critical context that was often overlooked. These chats had occurred before another scandal surfaced. This timeline suggests that while one Signal chat was being scrutinized, another had already been circulated unnoticed, a classic case of information manipulation where timing is everything. As we navigated through this unfolding drama, it became evident that there were deeper motives at play. The narrative pushed by certain media outlets seemed orchestrated. They aimed to tarnish Hegseth's reputation at a time when he was making significant strides in reforming military operations. His mission? To purge the Pentagon of leakers and individuals resistant to President Trump's policies while reinstating traditional military values free from what many deem woke ideology. Hegseth's response to questions about potential resignation was nothing short of assertive. He dismissed rumors with confidence, stating emphatically that he wasn't going anywhere. His resolve reflected not just personal ambition, but also a commitment to a cause he believed vital, the restoration of integrity within military leadership. The crux of Hegseth's argument lay in addressing how media operates today, often relying on anonymous sources and disgruntled former employees who might have their own axes to grind. He pointed out that this pattern is not new. It echoes historical instances where false narratives have been spun into damaging stories without substantial evidence or accountability on part of those reporting them. He stood among children during his Easter egg roll with his family, an image designed to showcase normalcy amidst chaos. He reiterated his dedication not only to defending President Trump, but also to safeguarding future generations from misleading narratives crafted by hoaxers. His passion resonated through his words as he recognized the stakes involved in combating misinformation. This is why we're fighting against fake news. Pete Hegseth's journey through recent controversies serves as a microcosm of larger battles within American society, between truth and deception, between accountability and slanderous attacks driven by partisan interests. As we reflect on these events through the lens of narrative exploration, it becomes clear that media dynamics play an essential role in shaping public perception. The need for critical engagement with news sources has never been more paramount as individuals navigate through layers of bias and misinformation in pursuit of authenticity. Ultimately, whether one supports or opposes Hegseth's approach, his experience underscores an essential truth. In today's political landscape, clarity often lies obscured beneath veils woven from speculation and sensationalism, and it is up to each citizen to discern fact from fiction amid the clamor. I just saw a great meme on Instagram that I kind of liked. It said, "The right loves the country but hates its government. The left loves the government but hates its country." That's all you should need to know. Now, I consider myself, a constitutional conservative. I don't hate my government. It's a necessary evil. I don't like the fourth branch of government, the bureaucracy. It's supposed to be an advisory role. That's it. It's supposed to advise Congress and the President before they make laws. That's it. For instance, the FDA, EPA, they all have SWAT teams. They have no law enforcement authority whatsoever, or they're not supposed to. They act like they do, but they don't. So the left loves the fact that they have this authority, but they want to defund all the other police departments, the ones that actually go out on patrol and protect people, because 24 unarmed blacks got killed. They don't care about the 200 whites that were also killed, just the 24 or 30 blacks. Let me test this, see if this works. Wow, I just figured out how to pause the video so I could collect my thoughts as I'm thinking. So maybe I won't have to make videos over and over all day long, or I still will, but I'll be able to, won't need to script them so much so I don't, get sidetracked. But yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not using AI because it took too long and it didn't give the emotional, like the tone of the voice. I might use it for classes or something. I did enjoy working with it or playing with it. It's fun to play with. But yeah, I wanted to, we don't hate our government. The right does not hate our government. We don't like aspects of it, and we want it reformed. Because the government is a necessary evil. But it's supposed to represent the consent of the governed. We give them permission to do what they do. They don't rule over us. They're not leaders. They're employees. That's what the left doesn't get. They're employees. They're not leaders. They're supposed to do, we put them there, we voted for them because they were going to do, they said they were going to do something that we wanted done to the government. Well, Congress is about worthless, and the Supreme Court should be slapping these district judges down because they don't have authority to issue nationwide injunctions. That's outside their authority. So the DOJ and the Supreme Court should be going, knock it off. That's not how it works. But yeah, I think I'm going to be using this pause function a little more. But I just thought that meme was so yes, America is so racist that we elected our first black president. Of course, I had not gonna lie, I had high hopes for our first black president, except he was, one, a Democrat, and two, a race baiter. So he pretty much screwed up his chances. He actually probably set back race relations 20 years, and you probably won't see another black president for a while, unless they're a Republican. I just saw it. I'm not going to say it's true or it's not. I just saw it on YouTube. I think it was Timcast IRL. Haven't watched the video, but it would appear, and I'm just saying it appears based on the headline, that former Governor Andrew Cuomo may be facing charges for his role in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of senior citizens during the COVID pandemic. Not saying it's true, just saying I just saw it, so I'm throwing it in here just as, you know, maybe tomorrow I'll have more information, but I just wanted to throw that out there. This is literally a last minute addition to this video or this live stream. I think I figured out why the left hates Elon Musk so much. And it has nothing to do, well, it has to do with Trump, obviously. But it also has to do with the fact that now they have to look at themselves. Okay, look at the people that have left the Democrat Party. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK. He didn't really leave the Democrat Party. He's still a Democrat, but he's working with the Republicans, which would make him kind of center, right? RFK. Elon Musk was a Democrat. Even admitted he voted for Joe Biden. So the reason they hate him is now they have to look at themselves. What are we doing to drive these people away? How messed up do you have to be to drive Elon Musk away? You have to be Joe Biden messed up. That's how messed up you have to be. And that's why they don't like Elon Musk. He was one of theirs. 95% of the cars that these idiots are keying and setting on fire belong to Democrats. Can you say, I want to make more Republicans? Because you're doing it quicker than Donald Trump could.
Lights flash, cameras clicking quick. Showtime, super Gringo slick. Headlines buzzing like a mix. 20 seconds, that's the fix. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part. Short and sharp, just like a dart. Gringo's antics steal your heart. In a flash, the show will start. Super shorts, that's where we part.